Hello everyone, and welcome to SUNUP. I'm Lyndall Stout. We begin today talking about Oklahoma's canola crop, which is a good 3 weeks ahead of schedule. With more perspective, here's our Extension Cropping System Specialist, Josh Lofton.
Well, we're moving along very nicely. The canola, depending on where you are in the state, we're kind of hitting our stride. We've come out of green up. We've kind of started getting after our spring growth. That's what kind of 80 and 90 degree days in February will do to it. But we're seeing a lot of canola coming out of dormancy, really starting to get some aggressive growth, putting on that green tissue again, and really coming out. Now, I'll tell you the biggest thing we're concerned with is when we're starting to see things come out of dormancy. Some of it's not actually coming out, and we had thought that we had a whole lot more survive with less winter kill than we actually did. There's some that are the original plant has died, and it's starting to get almost not exactly like wheat and tillers, but it's starting to get little branches coming out of the axillary buds, or the buds that are kind of around the normal growth point. If those come on and get some good growth and get some good conditions, we could still get a lot of those acres harvested. Other than that, we haven't had a whole lot of acreage just completely winter killed. It's just spots, which might not hurt our harvested acres, but might do worse for us in the yield per acre, because we are seeing these, and they're not typically really big spots. They're just, you know, larger spots in the field that have had issues with winter kill, and therefore the plant is either severely stunted or is no longer living. If you haven't started bolting, you're probably going to start to. We have 80 degree temperatures on the horizon. That plant's going to start moving forward. We are in March. It's a little early in March for what we like to see. So if you haven't put out your weed control, your fertilizer and canola, now's the time. The other big thing we're seeing is a lot earlier than we normally see. Our green peach and our cabbage aphids are a really big concern. Heath Sanders, our agronomist in Southwest Oklahoma, picked up some to where essentially the whole plant was covered in aphids. When you're going out there and putting your weed control, scout, and if you have to pair a pyrethroid in with that weed control, you know, now's the time that we probably still can get some control with those pyrethroids in some of these insect pests. So the one thing we really like about canola is once we've got it to this stage, it's very flexible. If we were to go really cold next week, this canola plant would just sit here and wouldn't go dormant, so to say, but just would sit here and wait for these good conditions. It gets a little more sensitive when we start getting flowers and pods out. But the good thing about canola that we don't have in wheat, this is where we like to say if you can get it to this stage in canola, it can do you well, is because if we get a major freeze event, since it's indeterminate, it sets on flowers throughout a multiple day, multiple week period, then we can recover a substantial amount of yield. We had that last year where we had a really heavy freeze right around the 1st of April. We saw a lot of yield get shed on that bottom half of that raceme. We still had really good yields. So it's our bigger concern is getting that late freeze when we have a substantial amount of that raceme filled out, and not allowing that plant to kind of make up with further reproductive growth. So that is our biggest concern right now, since we are seeing that crop quite a bit ahead of schedule, is what's going to happen if we get a freeze in April. You know, the growth of this crop this year is very, very challenging. We are seeing some of our better growth in some of our later planted canola, because it didn't have as much winter kill, and it didn't have as much shedding of the green material because it was much smaller. We see here, this is a trial that probably shouldn't have made it. This was planted around Halloween. And so it looks really good right now, and it's bolting right now, where we have some just down the road here that was planted around the 1st of October into September. It's not quite bolting yet. And so it's really, I think, more of a planting date issue, but it does, once we start getting those good conditions, those warm temperatures, if we have soil moisture and the places that have soil moisture, that's when that crop's going to start taking off and getting going. So if you have good soil moisture, which I think most of the state does right now, and we get those 80, 85 degree temperatures, yeah, you're going to start seeing that crop progressing pretty rapidly.